Right, Sunshines, as 2025 comes to an end, we have done a lot of art, more than, not more than last year, but still a lot. It was more than 140 pieces, which is, it's a lot of art, it's more than 130, right? But it comes to the time where we look back, reflect on what we've done in this year in order to step into the next one. So I'm going to go over every single art that I've painted this year, one by one, and I am going to, I don't know, just talk about it, remember what I've done there, and hopefully we're gonna see some improvements and also just my art style changing in general. Right, so first art that I've done was of Zalata from World of Warcraft. It was just a personal piece, just a little portrait, which I did to kind of take a break from commissions. And yeah, there it is. I remember it was like a pretty quick art. I kind of wasn't really feeling it, wasn't really passionate about it, but I'm used to starting New Year's with some personal art. And following with the first quick commission of that year, Orc Death Knight. They were pretty nice art. I can see how I was going for just more easier angles just to get as much rendering as I could. And I remember particularly on this one, I was trying to push the saturation on the blades and just in general, kind of working on saturation and desaturation contrast. Following that, a Troll Frost Mage, another quick commission. Nothing big to point out here. I remember particularly not enjoying the local purple colors and trying to push them in desaturation while trying to bring up some reds and like oranges from the hair. I actually really like the hair and the face, but I feel like a hand gesture kind of turned out a little strange. They look really thin. Also, just 3 fingers for trolls. F any hand gestures on troll characters. Alright, following up. I actually think this one was dragging for a while from 2024 as well. It is a full illustration commission of a Sethrak. It's sort of a Warcraft character, but they're not playable in WoW, so it's kind of a little bit of a original character situation as well. I remember not being able to figure out the perspective in this one, which kind of sucked, and I spent a lot of time on it. You can see the snake itself is like very rendered, which I also kind of redrew it a few times as well, just because of trying to fit it in this certain angle and perspective. But the rest of the piece looks kind of empty, right? That's a good indicator that I was struggling, but I do like the colors, however, and kind of the glow effect on the snake. And the little other snakes in the piece also kind of make it a little more lively. Right, following up with another quick commission of a Blood Elf rogue character. Back when I was working on this art, what was on my mind is just the contrast, or not contrast, but having both warm and cool colors in your art. So that's kind of what I was always keeping in mind, just having those two. Alright, for the next one, Dragfear in Visage form, another quick commission. Also, you can see like a half body, more of a close up even piece. Again, both kind of warms and colds. A lot of color variation on this, actually, a lot of nice saturation. Kind of dig this piece. I feel like the cropping is maybe a little too much or a little extreme, but I do like the blues in it. You can definitely see me just like experimenting with colors more than anything else. Maybe even not forgetting but neglecting some other things, but definitely kind of going wild on colors. Right, following up with another quick commission. I remember that this quick commission of a Draenei Paladin, I think it was for like some WoW person. They're like a esports caster or somebody. I don't watch a lot of WoW esports, but I do remember that particularly. I feel like here the material rendering is nice, and just in general, she kind of looking nice. But again, you can see the trend. She just standing there, right? Not much is going on. Which again, this is kind of how my thought process went back then. Like we're doing these quick commissions one after one, and I'm just painting the character, hoping to get it right, and then thinking, all right, what's the background? So like there is no planning of like what is the scene, what's the idea. It's just like, all right, there's the background, so let's just paint something there. And like you come up, all right, it's a consecration because like it's a paladin, she'll be standing in consecration fire, but it's quite quite unimaginative. Right, another quick commission of another WoW character. This one is also not a playable character. It's a Nether Drake, dude. A Nether Drake. Can you believe that somebody has a Nether Drake character in WoW? Yeah, I can. That was a quick commission of them. Looking nice. I was trying to go for glow from within and then kind of reflected light on top of it, which I don't think I particularly grasped, but it does look pretty nice. It does look slick. Also, what are these veins on the neck? Right, moving forward. I think it's a character from Elden Ring, right? Artoris something. I didn't play Elden Ring, but it is another quick commission. Which I was happy about this art. I think we kind of did it nice. And the dog in there too. You saying from Bloodborne? Yes. Oh, looking kind of crisp. I think we have some kind of background there, a lot of color variation. You can see I'm already kind of painting the thing off the silhouette, and you can see the leftover of the like dark black silhouette. That's kind of what my approach was back then, is to black out a silhouette and then kind of paint on top of it, build up the stuff, and then the underpaint would be like as an ambient occlusion leftover. Yeah, it was a nice one. We sold many prints of this one, and also we also did a YouTube video where I used this one as an example of like kind of doing quick artworks, quick illustration. And we got a lot of views. It's the most views I still have. Moving on, another quick commission of a WoW character, a Troll Hunter. This one looking nice. I think like at this point I might have already started introducing just kind of more environments into the art. It's not quite the storytelling beast that you'll see later, but you see, I mean, not an abstract background anymore. It's a shore, right? A beach. There's some water in there. I feel like it's nice. There's something about like the depth on the character that is lacking in this art, but I see a lot of good bits, like the glow on the eye, the parts of like dyed hair into blue is pretty cool. Like this subsurface scattering on the cloth is nice. Right, another quick commission, a warlock, I believe, probably a wet elf warlock. All right, going back from environments to more abstract backgrounds, but damn, this one is pretty solid in colors, and just in general, kind of love the low contrast and the rim light that highlights him. It's also interesting because I choose not to paint like that anymore, right? But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool seeing that. I also looked back at this art a lot as a example of how you can have no warm colors in the design of the character, yet still bring them in as like, you know, you see this like reflector or whatever in deep shadows, you see this like orange glow. So you can always, like, no matter what kind of character you have, you can always just bring in hues of the opposite kind of color spectrum. All right, moving on. One was called Delve Journey or something like that. But basically, like a human paladin or warrior delving, going on an adventure. All right, I like a lot about this art. I feel like I kind of struggled with just showcasing more depth and scale in this art. Like this entrance does seem like it's quite big. This one is kind of fine, but like I feel like having both of those nearly the same size kind of doesn't really build up the scale. And also, I feel like the face underneath the helmet and kind of the perspective on the helmet things kind of screwed this a little bit, his pose in general. I feel like most of this art is pretty good, but just like a few things here where I look at his face, he looks a little goofy. Yeah, I feel like the dramatic lighting is definitely kind of working pretty nice. Yeah, I don't mind this piece. I still feel pretty good about it. Right, moving on, a quick commission. I think this was a priest, a shadow priest character. Again, with just some abstract background. And it also had some OC elements as well with like their eyes. And I remember the expression was also dictated by the commissioner. I feel like the outfit is kind of... Yeah, the outfit is also not from the game, so that's kind of what I was probably messing with for the most time here. I would say nice contrast with the background, but the lighting itself it seems a little bit out of nowhere. This one, dude, I feel like I'm starting to critique my art rather than just like kind of go over it. But I feel like, but this point, I was just, you know, doing these commissions one by one and just, yeah, doing whatever fits for every character. All right, another one. I think this one was also a combination of an OC and a WoW character. But yeah, another quick commission. She was a Blood Elf Huntress. Yeah, again, theme continues of me trying to get some environments in and kind of expand from just like character standing there, but we're still pretty much in this just character face front, trying to get some expressions, trying to get some, like, I don't know, showcasing the personality, but at that point in time I'm just trying to paint them, right? That's my biggest concern. I want to go in and I want to paint the character, render it as much as I can, because I'm not really sure if that is like something that I can currently do or not. So that was kind of my number one priority. And then secondary, if I managed to show something within the piece, it's good. If I didn't, I didn't. Looking back at this art, again, nice contrast between warm and cool tones. Although, what is going on with this arm? She has her arm behind her, like this armor on the hip. So it's like she will have to. Yeah, it's looking strange. It should be like in front of it. Wonder how nobody pointed that out. Right, moving on to an Orc Warrior commission. Oh, dude, I like that. I like that piece still a lot. I remember that this particular Orc quick commission, and also I think two more, either Orcs or Orcs and Troll. No. There were three Orcs. That same person from Instagram commissioned me. Yeah, and that was it. This point in time, I was trying to go for like more angular shapes, and you can see it being reflected in his hair. Which, dude, pretty nice, pretty nice. I like this one. All right, the depth on the environment is kind of not really there. I feel like I would have pushed the shadow a little more. Also, like the edges of the screen kind of going towards him, like you feel the movement, you feel like kind of the blood rage, and he's like a really angry expression, eyes like just kind of moving together in anger, like something. Yeah, looking good, looking good. I'm still proud of this one. All right, dude. This is the next art was a big illustration commission for a regular commission that I've had. This one was a piece of their Night Elf Hunter that they had with. They wanted both of the pets and like some wildfire going on, or was it the wildfire that I came up with after the fact? This art, like, it has, I have mixed feeling about it because I look at it and I like a lot of things, yet I remembered not liking it whenever I was doing it. And I look back and I like a lot of things about it. I like the smoke there. I like the idea of fire. I like kind of what I managed to build up there. Yet I feel like there is not enough depth between the beasts and the hunter itself. The hunter should have been like blurred way back. There should have been way more kind of atmospheric perspective and changes. But also what really lacks from all of that is just like an interesting angle, right? It's again, there's the face angle to everything. So like no matter how much I try to like push this with like interesting shapes and colors and stuff like that, how much I rendered the beasts or the guy in his armor and then the owl in the back, it all kind of doesn't matter because the camera angle is just very static, right? The canvas size is also pretty kind of, it's horizontal, but it's still kind of squarey. So yeah, not really a good look, to be honest. But hey, it's interesting to see how like I've tried everything at my disposal to make it more interesting, yet it. Right, coming back to those orc quick commissions that I was talking about. Another one, and this one's not working. Managed to paint him in this top-down view, again with a little bit more of an environment in the back. I think looking good. I feel like I'm still kind of onto this where my orcs have like quite small legs. I don't know, he looking good, he looking good though. Blood was a nice way to like spice up the kind of monotonous bluish snow, and the warm light as well was kind of quite wonders for this art. Moving on, the last orc commission that I've done for them, the same person, female orc. I remember people were thinking that she's like a Zandalari troll, and then I added extra fingers to her, but no, she was meant to be an orc, just like in Zandalari kind of outfit. Again, trying to go for the environment, but you can see by the lack of details, kind of. By that time, I haven't had the experience to do environments as much as I have had recently, so it was quite nice lighting. I feel like I didn't push the reds enough, but overall looking not bad. Right, following up with this Paladin Blood Elf commission, I feel like I came up with the Ice Crown background like at exactly the last point. And that's something that I was like messing in this art a lot, as I was just trying different backgrounds for this. I was going from abstract to some kind of environment and ended up on an environment. And by that point, it was like very, very strong, this like fight between just like settling for a abstract background because nobody will complain, or pushing myself into like some environment and like a little bit like story beats or whatever. Right, full illustration commission. I don't go often through the art that I do, and whenever I come back to them, it's just like a whole bunch of memories just like surface up, and I remember me working on it. This was a full illustration of a WoW character with her reflection being like, as I remember it, like all pretty much broken and depressed and cursed, and she's gonna, this is her current self. And the idea was with the reflection kind of not matching her expression and emotion. They do look kind of matching now that I look back at them. I remember majority of my time was spent on like redoing the hair for her, because I was trying to kind of make it match with the reflection. The background, the environment was pretty easy to paint. But for the portrait itself, I wish it was a little bit more interesting angle. But I do like it for the rest of the things here. Also, I feel like the lighting is not dramatic enough. The lighting on her is, first of all, not reflective of the environment, and second is just kind of like not really expressive enough. But I do like the rendering on this art. Following that, another quick commission of a WoW character. This one was somewhat of a historical piece because it was for the same commissioner as we did the first ever quick commission year prior to this. It was also for a monk, for Dark Iron Dwarf monk. I mean, it was literally the same character, right? But I was just getting reached out by the same commissioner and having to paint the same character, but being able to do much more kind of in the same scope of a quick commission made me like really appreciate the progress and everything we've done so far. So again, I feel like I try to kind of overdo myself, go for a more extreme angle with some stuff here. Not bad, not bad. Looking back at it, I kind of like this. I like the shapes, I like the colors. I feel like the combination of this like fire, like embers, and green mist is pretty good. Following up with an undead Death Knight commission, quite liking this. I feel like character and the theme of like race or class really dictates my color palette and maybe even some other art things like contrast. Because for undead or Death Knights, I kind of tend to go for lower contrast, or like the whole environment and the character kind of on the darker side, which definitely fits the, yeah, but still brought up the reds to make it contrasty. Yeah, looking not bad. You can see some kind of environment. It's like an empty shore or something. Uh, but yeah, not a lot of bits of storytelling here, but again, just having the character kind of painted in. Following up by actually one of few of the year my personal pieces, and this one there's also a lot of lore to this art, where I did this as an example of huge. Huge stands for your character here. It's pretty much a way of commission where you post a sketch and then people pay you for you to finish this sketch but with their character instead of like the existing pose. So I did this with my character first, and I wanted to paint it with other characters pretty much in the same environment, pose, everything, right? But nobody ended up reaching out. Which was my nightmare, and why I've never done YouTubes like ever before is because I was just afraid of posting it and nobody reaching out, which what did happen. But basically, the idea here is that she's holding a keystone and putting it in this keystone holder, which is like a thing in WoW for you to start a Mythic Plus dungeon. Which I still think the idea is cool. You have the background, which is the theme of this season. You have her putting in the keystone, and in my mind, all the like WoW peers, keystone enjoyers would be like flooding in and being like, "Hey, dude, paint my character because it's made for this season, and I want to like showcase, or I want you to have this as a memory that I've been, doing keys this season." And I thought that if it does well, I would do it for every single season with like different backgrounds and stuff. It would be like a historical thing. And ended up not working out, and yeah, I cried myself to sleep that day. Pretty good art though. I remember trying to push the rendering. On the armor, that is still my favorite armor tier set in the game. I also like how the background is still quite bright, but by also not being, distracting from the character. Critiquing this art though, her neck is, what is this giraffe neck? Also just dark bits here. I would have brought back some light here or whatever. Following up with another quick commission. This one is a Vulpira. I think it is just a pirate. She doesn't have a class. It's just a pirate Vulpira. Actually, not a bad Vulpira piece. I really struggle with painting Vulpiras. They haunt me. Vulpiras is like the most challenging race to paint in World of Warcraft, but I feel like this one's pretty good. I like that there's an environment, there's a whole pirate boat back in there. I'm happy with that. I can already compliment myself looking back that it's not an abstract background. If it was a Vulpira with an abstract background, it would have been way worse. Right, following up with another Fury, a Worgen Death Knight. Even again, a nice crown background. Good, good. I love seeing more backgrounds. Good. I remember I was painting it and I felt like there is nothing like special about her. I guess it's just lack of expression and I don't know, like interesting body language. Again, she's just kind of posing for the camera vibe. But we have contrasts of reds and cools there, like warm and cool tones. The rendering is pretty good. There's some environment there, so you can see kind of the step by step you're going from just like pretty much a close up of a character with abstract background into like full bodies, into now we sneak it in the environments and still trying to keep up the quality. Yes, and another one, moving on, Torin Druid, and she's in Barons, which I try to go for some wild colors there for Barons to kind of showcase that it's like very warm there and there's some heat going on. I feel like I kind of overdid it on the edges. I was trying to really like play around with edges. You can barely see it, but it's there. Yeah, still everything follows up. Kind of just practicing putting everything, all of these things in place. I like that there's a little bit more of expression to her. Like she's definitely a little bit more lively than the previous art. Right, moving on, Demon Hunter Blood Elf Commission. Once again, everything to follow. We have the environment, we have the character. They're kind of still facing just facing the camera. They don't really have strong body language or expression going on, but the pose not static. The environment there, I also really like what the hell it did there with the edges and with kind of like the blurriness of it. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. I think the traps on this guy blending into the neck is a little too much, but I do even like the colors. Yeah, pretty good. I used to do this thing as well where I haven't had any particular lighting going on in the art. And sometimes it hits, but sometimes it flops really badly. I think here I did here. I'm quite proud of this art. Following up with another World of Warcraft quick commission, we have a Pandaren warrior. I thought it would be a good idea to put her in the Maw, which is like a zone with those lava environment and broken up like rock pieces going in the sky and kind of floating. It's a literal hell in the game. But I feel like it kind of seems a little empty. I don't think I kind of nailed the vibe for the zone. And also, I think her expression, she kind of looks a little bit confused, you know? At that point, I think I kind of started caring about kind of the vibe of the pose of the character and stuff like that. But one thing you can tell about warriors in WoW is that it's just like a whole metal, like a giant ball of metal that you have to render. All those different forms and shapes of like reflective metal material. Pandas are also pretty tough to paint. In my experience, Worgens somehow way easier. Pandas, Vulpiros, tough, dude, tough. Extra difficulty level. Moving on, another personal art. This is my Walker, my character from WoW that I was playing back at the time. I wanted to paint them in the dragon form, but with their tier set, and because the catch is that you don't see most of the armor whenever you're in the dragon form. And I wanted to paint them. Originally in this art I had fire, and the whole idea was that she was kind of like holding onto this fire, controlling it with her hands. But then I keep not liking it and I kept redoing it because it was kind of fighting for the attention, or like the focal point was either the fire or her wings, and I made the wings glow, and then the fire was kind of like not about anything, but then I wanted to make her glow. So I ended up just like sort of doing whatever scratchy brushwork for the whole art. And I remember this took me like 40 hours or something. And it's just absurd. You look at it and it just doesn't look like a 40-hour piece. It looks like a whole lot of nothing. And I was like very, very down on myself. It's a worst case scenario where you allow yourself to do a personal piece. You know, you're not doing commissions, you're not getting paid, but yeah, then you also start to like struggle and not enjoying in the process, and then you spend absurd amount of time, and then you're not even satisfied with it. Whatever. I feel like it was also somewhat of a learning experience where, again, I got punished for not planning ahead of time. And there will be a few more times like that in this year, and then it would lead to me eventually getting into more planning, more thumbnail work, and stuff like that. Moving on. Another quick commission of a World of Warcraft character, a Worgen Death Knight. This one, I think, I remember being very proud for sneaking in sort of the second character, who was the skeleton summon of the Worgen. And some environment, and also the another skeleton just raising hand. Dude, are they like doing pistol emoji or like gesture with their hand? And yeah, the whole necropolis flying back in there. Pretty nice, but this doesn't really strike me as an environment either. It's just like the horizon line. Yeah, but overall, again, looking good. I feel like at this point, I made it as a rule to have an environment in every art, and then trying to get again as much rendering as I could on the character. Oh yeah, here we go. A rogue, another quick commission of a Blood Elf rogue. A Blood Elf rogue. We see a lot of them. But here I think I was desperately trying to do an environment, and I ended up just again going for something abstract with smoke, which this was probably also a case of outfit being like a part of an original design and not necessarily represented in WoW. It's a very common thing where people have their characters in WoW and also kind of like outside of WoW, like an OC, like they do like maybe they bring their OC in WoW, or they have a WoW character and then they elaborate on them with like coming up with original outfits and stuff. Yeah. All right, moving on. A Dragfear. I remember this one was a warlock, but they wanted to portray him as an alchemist for the most part. I like his goofy expression, but I actually like this art. I feel like there's a little bit on his movement that is kind of. This arm seems like very thin. The legs are kind of bulky and big. The expression is goofy, but in general, I kind of feel like it reads nicely. Also, if anything, this is I like he's doing something, right? He's doing something with the potion. Also, there's like if you look closely, there's a little skull in here, which I'm a fan of, just hiding skulls in the abstract shapes that I do. Some nice purple rimlight here. Not bad, not bad. Green, orange. You can see how I feel like that's something that I can revisit. Back then, I was not afraid of just popping in like a color for the sake of it. You can see this like glow of orange there because I thought that only green would be kind of boring. I feel like over the year I gradually went into like just more tame realistic colors and trying to push those. But I feel like there was also value in just having freedom of doing whatever the hell you feel like doing with colors like it is here. Moving on to another could be a rogue commission with this time a non-dare rogue. Loving this piece. I remember this one was praised whenever I was painting it. Yeah, somehow everybody was just telling me how much they love it. This one again, they asked for the hand to be kind of skeletal, I remember, or like more, not like it looks in game, like just with flesh, but like more with bones. I feel like this one looks. Yeah, I still like how it looks. It has enough contrast, yet it kind of looks not contrasty, and I feel like I really nailed the expression of her coming out of the smoke. Yet, gotta tell it a little bit of critique that the smoke does look a little bit flat. Like it does look just like one little thing. Although if you look at it, there are still like look here, screaming face. I feel like if you kind of look at those, there are those yeah screaming faces, skulls, stuff like that is kind of hidden in here. Here, look at this one. Pay attention to here, right? You'll never notice those if I don't point them out, but they're in there. I also like just the subtle hue variation. I feel like this is something that I really need to get back on. Like look the purples, the reds, the cyans, greens, all of this stuff, and like this pretty much just like gray thing. Damn, I kinda dude, I still dig this art. I'm proud of this. Quick commission of a Dragfear, another one. No environment, just abstract background. Also quite monochrome, but a little bit of hue variation. This one was special because I started painting it on my Samsung tablet while sitting in coffee shops and hookah places, and I was trying to kind of paint on the go, and then I realized that I like having time of drawing while I'm outside. And I also realized that I hate painting on the tablet, on like a standalone tablet outside. I just like painting at home. But kind of a lot of this was dictated by just me starting it on an iPad or the tablet. It's kind of cozy. It feels nice to like use your brush against it, but having no swift access to shortcuts and stuff like that really messes with you. Following up with another quick commission of a dwarf paladin, a rare dwarf painting. I feel like, dude, where is his neck at? I really like the light on the armor and his kind of dwarf expression. I don't know, he ain't looking bad, but I feel like something about the proportions. Maybe the torso is too short or something. I do like the lighting on the head though, the crown, looking really nice. Very detailed there. Again, a nice contrast between warm and cold colors as well. Dude, this is one of those where like I'm looking back, like I I clicked on this arrow and I didn't expect to see this because I forgot that I've ever painted this. Can you imagine? Can you imagine like painting something like this doesn't seem empty. This is not like something that you can just spit out like randomly and forget. This is something that I was putting my thought into, like looking up references, thinking about it, and then you just completely forget. Hmm. Ooh, following up by another dwarf big commission, a warrior this time around. Dude, I remember I was really proud of this one and I still like it a lot. I feel like the whole hood shape though, a little bit too much. This is, you see how this is a little too much? Like his head kind of continues in there. Dude, this is, I don't feel like I've ever felt this strong into wanting to go back and fix something. Because otherwise it looks so good though. I like the texture, the painterly texture. I like the fire. And even though it's like technically an abstract background, you can see he's standing on the ground, and it looks like a face off. Like it looks like it's some kind of situation there where he's fighting somebody. So I really like this. I love this art. Also, like dwarf this time around, quite good proportions for a dwarf, right? He does look like a dwarf. I feel like it's also like the light shape on the nose, which ain't clicking for me. The eyes might seem a little too far apart. Alrighty, now I recognize, we're getting into the territory where I recognize those. This is another quick commission of a human paladin, and I was really proud of this one, dude. This one I made as a print, it did very well. Oh, are you guys picking up on the theme? Moving on from this into this, comparatively to even this. I'm picking up on the theme where we're starting to experiment with camera angles. This is a little bit of a bottom up angle. And even though the character ain't doing much with his pose, it looks much more dynamic, right? This looks, I don't know, I love the colors of the background for the most part. Rendering on the character, I feel like it lacks a little bit of more on ambient occlusion. It's something that I think I was lacking on back then. But I feel like as an art overall looks really good. The pinks on the background contrasted by the cyan of the character. Nice, really nice, dude. A little bit of perspective thing on the sword, but overall, dude, is looking really good. Moving on, another quick commission. This one was I don't remember if she was a paladin or a warrior. I think she was a warrior, but she like a recruit kind of holding the helmet. Yeah, this was another quick commission, dude. I'm really liking this one. I like the saturation that I've built up on the sky. I feel like I went a little too many clouds there in the bottom. But again, kind of bottom up view, nice. I think something about her pose like rubs me the wrong way. Maybe I should have had like one leg back so it's like looks a little more dynamic. But I kind of like light there is pretty consistent, pretty good. I don't know, just looking nice overall. Just again, just contrasted against the background here, pretty good. You can see like the individual brush strokes in the background. I was like messing around with my brush work back then. Alright, following up with another quick commission, a panda warrior. I think that's one of the best pandas I've painted. I love the vibe, I love that it's clear what is presented there, the background really supports it very well, colors are good. Following up, we have a full illustration commission of a Warcraft character, and that kind of tells a scene. Even though this was made this was painted in like summer, springtime. I remember like I was painting it yesterday. I was reaching out for feedback to people. I was like painting it or repainting it. A lot of work went into this one. Yeah, I was trying to tell a story with this art, and I was kind of figuring out mostly composition by brightness. So you can see I was thinking about like, should I highlight the main characters who is hiding here on the left? Should I lighten up this crystal in the sky more? Should I brighten up them more? How bright or dark should be the foreground things? And all those things I was repainting, repositioning things all the time. I still can see a lot of perspective issues and foreshortening issues and just scaling issues for the most part, right? Like things not going too much into the distance. But yeah, the process of creating this, I was thinking a lot about blurring edges and kind of thinking where should I add details and stuff. Yeah, a lot of definitely growth happened on this art, but looking back at it, I feel like there's a lot of this like subtle saturation in the shadows that really rubs me the wrong way, or like maybe it's this purple dim light that doesn't really seem. Yeah, maybe it's the difference between how dark the shadows and how bright the light is, which doesn't seem right to me, and it all kind of blurs together a little bit. It does stand out as a pretty like not a bad art, but this one thing kind of rubs me the wrong way if I was to critique it. It looks quite detailed compared to what I used to do for big illustrations. I'm definitely at this point I'm trying to like up the game on my full illustrations, and since like you've seen up to this point I've been trying to do like more and more of my quick commissions, and then now I'm bringing up the other part, which is the other pillar of my income of my art career, which is full illustrations. Right, following up by another quick commission, a paladin, I think a human, right, but she has like a little bit of pointy ears. Yeah, I tried to do the wings, but another one where I was trying to do the environment, but it didn't fit. I remember switching between an environment and an abstract background. Yeah, I feel like I didn't drive enough the effect of the wings here of the spell. Moving on to another quick commission of a demon hunter. I would say same story, but he's in a way more dynamic pose. I like this shape of the horn. Very specific, but I really like this. Actually, if you paying attention, there are so many horns in this art. I feel like by this point in the year, I have calmed down on like craziness of the colors, and I'm like a little bit rethinking my approach to them. I'm thinking like less strong saturation, but more colorful stuff is what I can guess. I don't like remember 100% what I was up to in that point in the year, but this is what I can just observe. Another quick commission. This art is the first artwork of a goblin I have ever made, and I feel like it's still pretty good. The only criticism, which is the pretty big criticism actually, is just really her legs and just how tall she is. She's not on par for how goblins and WoW should look. Which I kind of knew that. I just didn't want to deal with like kind of gimmicky look of goblins back in that time. I was aware of what I was doing, but looking back at it now, I feel like it's kind of unforgivable. You know, like I feel like I should have not allowed myself to do it. It's too much of a stretch of artistic liberty there. Right. Moving on, we have a rare personal work. This one is a fan art of just an Imperial dude from World of Warcraft, and them holding Dark Heart, which is the thing in the story, right? The artifact. And this was a personal piece which I was doing. The fan arts that I'm doing as a personal work, I really expect for them to kind of drive a lot of engagement in social media, and this is what was driving my ideas for fan arts for the most part. Just pretty much greed for likes and exposure. So there were a lot of hopes in this, but it's not like I was doing it just for selling my soul for the algorithm or anything. But there is a part of that, but also I did really kind of like the idea of painting this because they have like a really cool texture. and I elaborate on the texture. You can see his face, it kind of still resembles a human face. Meanwhile, in the game, it's just all cloth, all bandages. And you probably can notice how like this is much more rendering than you've seen before. You've seen prior to this. Way more rendering, like way more details and everything. I would say I'm still kind of not confident in kind of like the light. It's all just diffused lighting, not a lot on the ambient occlusion. Following up by a quick commission of a troll warrior. I particularly remember that the commissioner wanted to go for like predator vibe, and I think I even managed to do the lighting like they have like in posters for predator or something. Like it's very, it looks like strong light, but it also doesn't seem bright. And also the glow from the jungle, I feel like I'm portraying the vibe pretty nicely. Again, if only the camera angle was a little more interesting and some foreground bits and a little bit more like movement in the body, I could have made you feel like you're prey and like that guy is the predator. But just because it's only the lighting, we kind of do seem like we're just looking at him. The background does feel pretty good. I agree with that. Following up by another quick commission of this one is a Draenei Death Knight. I feel like this one is a Death Knight. Something must have went wrong on this. I really like the pose and the anatomy rendering that I've had there, but um I must have wanted to go for a environment in the back. I don't remember what happened, but it seems like I kind of changed my mind on it. Yeah, this one ended up just being like character focused art. All right, following up with another quick commission. This one is a Vulpira Rogue. The commissioner for this one wanted like a cyberpunk vibe for this, so that's kind of what I went for. For a, I was trying to do like a ray of light onto her and contrast of cyan and pink. I feel like I should have gone for a light on her though instead. Yeah, I kind of don't like, now looking back at her, I don't like how she like just standing there in abstract. Yeah, but face ain't too bad. Kinda happy. Vulpiras are all, you gotta give them that. Vulpiras are difficult to paint. But I feel like the body is pretty nice. Alright boys, moving on, we have Quick Commission. This one was again the situation of a Warcraft character but an OC within WoW universe, and he's like infinite drug fear in visage form with like this kind of facial feature. By that point in time, I was really experimenting with like visible brush strokes, and I was like that really inspired by Leon Decker. I absolutely remember this 100% how this is, and I can see the influence over. It's just we went back from having environments into like more painterly kind of look and trying to make it look like it's been painted on a singular layer. Yeah, I would say this is a pretty good art. Still love coming back to it. Alright, following up, we have a full illustration commission of a Dark Current Dwarf Warlock. This is a commission for my regular commissioner, and you'll see art that I did for them following after this one. But this one was a whole journey, dude. This one started looking way different, and then it was another one of those artworks where I started off, I render it out, I don't like how it looks, and then I follow up by just changing things, changing again, rendering again, and changing again because I haven't had a plan to begin with. And then after a set amount of tries, I finally stumble upon an idea that I do enjoy, and I finish it off. And it went from just a simple idea of her holding the skull and looking back at a skull into like forming all these things with infernals and this giant skull in the background. This was all just improvisation that kind of went through while building this piece. I really love this art. I love the infernals. I feel like it's so good. If only she wasn't just fucking standing there. I feel like if only she was like some kind of movement in her pose, levitating. I mean, the pose doesn't seem stiff, right? You can see like she's kind of like moving a little bit to the side. She's holding the skull. The other arm is like, it doesn't seem too stiff, but also it doesn't really support the movement of this whole thing. I wish she was just like raising her hands or her arms to the sides to kind of like command the infernals, like something along those lines would have been really good. But I would say it's a situation where you feel like you're working with the commissioner and you have to follow their vision by also but also trying to kind of come up with something new, and you feel quite kind of restricted by that. You're not in reality restricted, but you feel like it, and it's been like also like 50 hours that we've been painting this, so you just decided to settle on something and render it. So this is the art at the end that I was able to come up with. Following up with another quick commission, I think this one was priest, yeah, blood elf priest with just a little more feminine body type. Yeah, didn't manage, I guess, didn't manage to do an environment. This one again, I kind of went back to like more painterly look. You can see the beam, the pendulum swing it again from abstract into environment into now abstract, but it's more painterly now. Yes, indeed. Following up with another quick commission, this one, Blood Elf Paladin. Yes, I like how the more direct light on him really kind of brings it more to life, and like how the crystals are kind of like not glowing in the light area, but glowing in the shadow area. This looks pretty nice. I feel like the body composition on him looks a little strange if you like try to trace back the shoulders and the waistline as well. Um, but if corrected that, looking pretty good. Also, again, quite painterly in background for this. This art brings some memories. This one, boys, might not similar like to you. I'm actually not sure what it seems like to you, but it is a full illustration commission that I have spent the longest time on ever. So in all of my time doing art, I've never spent more time on an artwork than I did on this art, which was, I think, over 65 hours. Yes. And this art just might not strike to you like it's kind of, it was worth that many hours. But I was just rethinking, redoing it, and I've tried so many variations here. It is insane. Again, you remember that theme that I pointed out earlier? It's gonna be like a learning process of me here going from just quickly jumping into art and then finding out that it's not working. I have to redo it. And then basically just being punished for not thinking up front or doing thumbnail. It was like a lot of iterations on the same pose, same theme, same vibe here, which in its core was just like an orc shaman using elements and fighting the Rubians. Um, and it kind of was always about that, but just fiddling with details of it and then repainting most of the art because you're not happy with that angle, that shape, this color, changing the brightness, changing like I remember the stuff on the horizon there was first like there was like more of this city. You can see like some triangle shapes there. It was more of the Nerubian city there. There were some Nerubians approaching there. There was like no cracks in the ground. The fire shapes were different. It was all changing like every now and then for this piece. And just a lot of kind of discovery along the way, a lot of trial and error, which ended up costing me 65 hours or so. Crazy amount of hours. I'm really proud of the lighting and the fire effect here. This is the first time I ever came down to fire, kind of making the smoke almost like part of the fire effect, which I really did like it. This looks like it's the whole thing is on fire, especially shapes here. Look how good they look. I'm really proud of this. I feel like the composition could do a little better and can be like a little more clear what was going on, but some of the rendering and the fire shapes really do stand out to me, and I feel like I learned a lot working on this. Following up, we have a Death Knight Undead character commission. It's again the OC from WoW situation here, and we're continuing on the painting theme with something sort of abstract for the background. I really like the blood that is spilling in there, and I try to kind of elaborate on the art with some orange in there. Following up, we have another full illustration commission here of actually two characters kind of facing off enemies that are off screen, while the Bell Dark Crystal in the background just turning into shadow, which means that kind of like bad times are approaching. And they have their pet there. I think this art took quite a lot of time. And again, just due to the angle of it, it just doesn't seem like that dynamic to me. I was working the background a lot, and I feel like I wasn't really satisfied with the light on this one as well. Light does seem kind of inconsistent. I was redoing it left and right. I feel like I'm kind of quite proud of the Torrent character. Usually Torrents, I don't really enjoy painting them as much, but this one was quite good and came out quite easily. Trackfit was also pretty nice. Another full illustration of, I assume that was a paladin. Again, it's like a little bit of a personal character, like OC in WoW situation once again. But for this one, they wanted to represent like kind of in Warhammer, they have big claws. So yeah, quite a lot of 40k vibes. Army in the background, so it's something that I kind of really like painting, just like a lot of silhouettes, shapes of people in the background. I feel like looking pretty good. I felt quite good about the pose. I think the cloth and the perspective on the shoulders kind of rubbed me off the wrong way. So I was like also redoing this piece for. There were quite a few iterations on this, but in general, I'm kind of happy with how this turned out. And also, you can see the painterly vibe that I had going on for quick commissions also bled into this, and the background and the clouds are quite painterly and quite expressive, you can say. The change of color is quite huge on them. Meanwhile, the character is pretty desaturated. I kind of dig this aesthetic. If I was to think about how to improve this art, I feel like it's about the framing. Um it's almost like the background and the character, or like shape of characters in the front, they're taking up even amount of space, and you almost want like either the opposite, or like you want like more of the background or the character sort of. At least that's kind of what it feels like to me now. I like the variety of colors here though. Speaking about positives here, moving on to another quick commission, a troll hunter. I feel like again an OC situation with a regional outfit being kind of implemented onto a WoW character. Yeah, I like the way I painted this one a lot. Quite nice, consistent lighting, strong colors, quite a lot of rendering again in the environment in the background. Um, I really, by that point, I think I understood that I really like painting deserts. I feel like deserts come out so easily, and the colors for them are, they seem like they're very dictated, but you can kind of do a lot of a lot of colors onto them. Like you can see some purple, oranges, yellows, cyan in the sky, like a lot, quite a lot of colors. Following up, another quick commission and another desert. And again, you can see here I went quite nuts on the colors there. Some mint in the background. This one was a troll, Zandalari troll, with a helmet like this. It's very rare where WoW characters have helmets on, because if that's your character, you want to showcase their face. But here she had this mask on. I really like this art. I also did use a reference for the pose, which I rarely do. I barely ever use references, photo references for poses, but that's why you can see the anatomy is maybe a little better than you might have been used to with my art. Let's see how far along are we. 60 artworks in. Oh my god, dude. When did I do so much art? Moving on, we have another full illustration. I think it's a palette in nature, but it's also an OC situation. Again, this one I wanted to do in the style of my old art, where I used to do a lot of ornaments and like abstract details in the art, while kind of placing the character within them. I think I didn't push the ornament part enough. Like these ornament bits of like the shadow from the corner of the piece into the flame, into the background there, into the kind of green leaves. They don't really like merge together as much, but it was a really interesting piece to work on nonetheless. Following up, another quick commission, human warlock. I believe warlock. Raise a hand who spotted a skull in in the shadowy shapes. I like this art. I feel like even the angle's pretty nice. I feel like it didn't just drive the dynamic between her hand gesture in and the flame in the background enough, but I do absolutely love the fire shapes there, which again I have smoked kind of mixed in with the green fire and very nicely contrasted against the character. Following up by another personal piece of Dementius the Devouring, last boss from current expansion in World of Warcraft. Pretty good art, still proud of it. Lots and lots of rendering. I tried to like up my game on the rendering here. And this piece went pretty good on socials. Sold quite a lot of prints of that. This one was pretty good. Following up, we have a quick commission of a Tauren monk. Huge color contrast, a lot on the contrast of saturation and desaturation. And I think on this one, I really tried to go for more aggressive shapes and shape language, more straight lines and stuff like that. And I feel like I kind of really managed to bring it in the like bandages that are floating off, and also like a pretty nice just graphic thing of the monk tiger in the back. Following up by another quick commission, night elf rogue. Quite a simple art, but because of the bottom up angle and I don't know dynamic pose, few um, foreground elements, I feel like it's looking pretty good. I feel like it's just kind of a little bit of bits of storytelling that you kind of want out of a character art, but also not too much to distract you from the character itself. Also, I think this piece did really well on Twitter. I'm not sure if the orange kind of highlights are necessary here. I was just trying to um, bring in some warm hues in the art, and I kind of struggled to find a reason for it because I didn't want to set up a kind of warm light here. Hey, here we are. This art is another personal piece I did, kind of inspired by the Dementius fan art. This one is a painting of a Dragfear, but kind of with the void theme. And this one was, if I remember correctly, was done really fast, but I really, really enjoyed working on this. Pretty much the inspiration light that the Dementius stuff did really well, and I liked painting the void stuff, but also drug fears do really, really well on socials. So I was like, if you just combine the two, we're gonna find the perfect thing. And I think this one was quite a success. I remember that, and it is just really easy. Like if you've never went into like painting buffy dudes with like muscular upper body, it's very easy. It's easy, it's fun, it's forgiving in a lot of ways because you don't have to be correct about the anatomy, just bulk it up to 100. And if you know some anatomy, it's gonna look good. Yeah, nonetheless, also quite a huge contrast on the blue and the desaturated purple and also saturated purple. Yeah, pretty nice. Like some bits and pieces that I do still really like about this piece. Following up by a quick commission of a Draenei Shaman, I believe. I remember not being able to figure out what I want to do for the background for her, and I went for some mushroom bits and trees from one of the zones from the game. Also, I think this character is for a commissioner who's a regular or like recurring commissioner for us, and we will be doing another piece for them this year. Really liking the anatomy here for her. It's at that point where I haven't been using any anatomy references for a while, but I feel like it still holds nicely. Again, you can see some kind of more straight lines here, which really helps for me. On legs, I don't like it as much, but for some reason there are no straight lines there, right? Because I didn't feel as confident with them. But on the torso, it's a different scenario. Oof. Following up by a original character, a Fury, but in a World of Warcraft armor. Oh, it was like a tall Vulpira, yes, but pretty much a fox, pretty much a Fury fox person, um, who is a fire mage. And I did kind of really like the fire and the contrast that I had there. I feel like I didn't drive the contrast of light and shadow shapes on the guy, but I did really like the fire thing and the expression and the pose. I also love just how a top-down angle makes the art so much more dynamic and nice. Another quick commission, a light forged Draenei. I think it was a rogue, but you can see the character and the way it's being designed is like done to almost make it look like a non-WoW character. So I really dig that. Like I really enjoyed the vibe of this character. I love the details that I did in the sphere there. And I don't know, just I feel like this piece came together really nicely. If I had one criticism, it's the swords. I feel like they kind of, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how like I like them fading into the purple, but them fading upwards makes them look quite strange. Following up by another quick commission, a Vulpira pirate. Again, we have Vulpira pirates. There are no specific um, classes or anything. They're just pirates, and you know what? We love them. We love them. I feel like this is even better than the previous Vulpira pirate I've done. You can see the storming sky or the storming sea with the sky and the whole ship and even the bird. Everything's there. Yeah, I really like how this one turned out. Some direct light from the corner on her, spilling the, I don't know what is it, mineral water, sparkling water. Very nice, very nice. Try to drive up some brightness and saturation on the orange here. I don't know how I feel about that. It looks like a desperate attempt for some saturation in this art, and also perspective here is definitely wrong. I knew it at the time, but even looking back, I was like, yeah, it's a little bit off. But hey, good art. I'm happy about this one. Another quick commission. I think this one, they particularly wanted their survival hunter and the beast for them as well in the same piece. So I think we did some extra time to manage both of them in the art. Um, but I think looking good. I like that there's like dynamic. She's walking onto us. There's blood, and you can see trails of blood. Right, like looks like they're on the hunt or something, or like they're mercenaries. Definitely kind of lack of saturation. You can feel it very strongly in this art, like kind of dim, desaturated light, grayish like designs of the characters, and the blood seems like it's the only saturated piece, but saturated part of the art, but really doesn't kind of do the job. So yeah, lack of saturation really shows in some of these pieces. Even though technically you have a lot of hues playing together, none of them really stand out. Moving on, another quick commission, Drug Fear. I feel like a lot of people were memeing on me when I was painting this. I was very happy with the fire and with the pose of the Drag Fear. I was mostly struggling with the wings because the way wings look for Drag Fears kind of suck in the game. But I was happy with how this turned out. Although people were memeing on the pose and that he was like confused, like he got something missing. I can definitely see that. But dude, in my mind, whenever I was painting this, I was just consumed by, I don't know how difficult it is to just paint this while having no references and just like really calculate the whole pose and the thing, even this just like constrained set amount of hours. I don't know, like, still happy with how it turned out. Following up, dude, this art also brings back some memories and some feelings. We got 10,000 followers on Twitter, and to celebrate that, we did an art raffle. And the person who won the art raffle, it seemed like they were the professional art raffle enjoyer. The only thing that you had on their profile on Twitter is just porn and art raffle retweets. And they won, they didn't reply me for a few days, but then replied that the character that they want for me to paint was a Wings character. And apparently it's Icy from Wings. Which I wouldn't just paint Icy from Wings because it's a cartoon for 5-year-old girls. I decided to paint from like this green manner while studying another artist. And that's about it. I don't particularly like this art. I don't hate it, like I did my best, but I don't feel like there's a lot of not a lot of passion went into this, I can tell you that. Following up, we have a quick commission of a D&D character. This one was not even like nothing remotely close to WoW, just hey, there's my D&D character. But I was happy with it. I feel like the angle here, the kind of the environments, the story beats, he's like near a near a bonfire, and he's like a traveling merchant. Um, I feel like a little lack on the contrast. Like you would really want like some punching shadow or like more on the ambient inclusion there in the cracks. It just does seem like a little washed out when you don't have this strong contrast. Which it did seem like I only picked up on it recently, how to build it up. Moving on, we have another quick commission. I think this one is a they introduced me to it as a Magic the Gathering character, but I'm not sure how they're like Magic the Gathering characters. But basically, yeah, it's like a cat person. I tried to play with like shadow color, but I'm not sure if it like really reads like a shadow. I mean, it probably does, but it doesn't really. It doesn't work like that. There, so it kind of seems a little off. But I do like the angle and like the shapes of the cat itself. But this one feels like it was recent, but turns out it was quite a while ago. But this one is a quick commission of WoW character, just sitting there chilling with his cows, apparently. A lot of saturation build up here. I'm not sure if all of it is justified. You can see build up there. Um, I kind of like the vibes of this art. It's you can see how gradually we went from a close up into a full body into now we're doing like more of storytelling bits with like some environment, some additional characters, things like that. It's you can really see the evolution of these artworks going. Also, two cows, dude. Nice. This one's chilling. Everybody was enjoying this cow on the stream. Following up, a quick personal portrait of a dragon. I just did it in black and white just because I actually just felt like it. I think by that point in time I was kind of not necessarily exhausted, but I wanted some like artistic relief out of just commission grind. So and end up doing something that was just pretty easy, like a portrait that you can almost right away like zoom in and start rendering, but not even bothering with colors. This one was just like a relaxation journey for me. I was just enjoying and just having a good time while painting this. You know, nothing too serious. I don't even remember if I did post this or not, to be honest with you. Maybe I have to look back and check. But I quite like it looking back at it. Another quick commission of a human warrior or a paladin. I would say warrior probably, but I do kind of dig this one a lot. Stormwind in the background, some dynamic shapes and folds and the saturation build up here. Light, really, really nice. Look at this, look at the blue. I think this was the time where I was trying to bring saturation kind of any cost or started onto doing it. I have recorded first part of this art review at the end of 2025, and then it took me around a month to get back to it again. As you can see, I've lost some hair, but I've gained a little more clothes this time, so that would do. Coming back to the art review, this one was a quick commission of a human mage, another WoW character. Actually, really love this piece. Even though the background is like abstract, it's not a scene or anything, it's actually kind of seems really fitting and full of details. It is one of those pieces where I really liked how it did the special effect on the magic. I usually hate introducing some kind of like magic and spells that characters cast, but here I feel like I did it very well. The colors are nice. I would say the folds and a little bit of the volume on the clothes is something that I could be improved upon, but overall, still looking back and proud of this art. Following up, we have a personal art of a Dragfear Evoker character. It's not necessarily my character, I just wanted to paint a Dragfear, and for a very simple reason of them just doing really well on social media. Twitter and Blue Sky, and just like you post a Dragfear, you get a lot of exposure for it. I think this one ended up not doing too crazy on socials, but it was a nice art to work on nonetheless. I dived into a lot of details. You can see the subtle hue variation on the chest, the background as well was kind of very nice. To be honest, the piece itself is, there are things that kind of really ruin it for me. Like I would say the tits on the dragon is, I mean, I like how they're looking, but concept-wise, it feels kind of strange. Also, I'm not entirely happy with the face, even though it's nice. It's like there's something off about it. But overall, I think it's looking pretty good, pretty good. And next we have another drug fear. This one was a big illustration commission. It was initially just the drug fear character that they wanted for me to paint, but we ended up getting a few of their guild friends characters in as well. This Vulpir in the corner and this night guy. The whole idea is that it was a guild meeting during night, and they're like sitting around campfire talking and chatting. I think this piece ended up looking pretty lively. A lot of hue variation, a lot of nice little details. I would say the depth, the whole atmosphere working pretty well. Little sparkles from the fire do look very realistic. And overall, I think I got the values kind of right here on the night campfire scene. It's actually like a thing on its own to do these. Like this type of lighting is like very specific. But you can also see I didn't shy away from some rim light from the back, as well as the main light here. I think I didn't even spend that much time on it. It was like around 30 hours, which is not too crazy for a full illustration commission. And this one got actually quite good reception on social media. Next up, you have another quick character commission. This one is a Blood Elf Demon Hunter. And I remember doing this in a little bit of a style of a Hearthstone card, like in a way where the silhouette is quite readable. And in general, I really like this one. I think the brushwork went a little kind of muddy on this one, a little too painterly, but he looking pretty good. Also very nice orange contrast to the overall green aesthetic of the piece. Next one, we have another big illustration commission, and you're gonna see a few big illustrations following up this with borders, and it's my thing. Somewhere midway around 2025, I really got into the idea of doing borders. Pretty much as you can see them here, it's kind of like in the style of loading screens for World of Warcraft. And then, dude, I got upset with borders. I was putting them everywhere, on my quick art, on my personal art, on the full illustrations, like everywhere. I was living with borders, dude. But yeah, this one was first of them. It's an mage, old elf mage character, just doing some elven writings or whatever. And that's kind of that was the whole idea, the whole aesthetic, and it was pretty big project. I spent a lot of time working. I think up to 50 hours, if I remember correctly, working on this art, pushing the details. It was a lot of thumbnailing, deciding on the composition, iterating, doing changes. Um, pretty. I took this art pretty seriously, and I'm quite happy with the result. I still feel it doesn't it doesn't really, like, the quality doesn't really match, like, I don't know, splash art, like some kind of crazy level, but I'm definitely attempting it to get there. Whereas previously I didn't even try to. With this one, I really kind of went for it. With books in the foreground and, like, just really establishing the planes, establishing, trying to go more on the rendering. Yeah, really like this art. Ooh, next one. I completely forgot that I even did this piece. It is Liadrin from WoW, and it's just a personal little portrait piece of her. I think it was just a few hours, but I don't know. I think if I remember correctly, I was just really craving like a portrait art, because on on the timeline of doing commissions and stuff like that, is people don't really commission your portraits as much, and so you do really want to paint them once in a while as an artist, and so I that's where I decided to get it in. I don't know, quite an alright piece. I think just the angle, no expression, like it's a little bit unimaginative, but I still did pretty well on the light, and the overall kind of forms and rendering of this art. For a quick art especially, it wasn't too bad. To follow it, we have another quick commission, an orc warrior, looking like a blade master a lot. It really fiddling with the top-down view on the legs here. The perspective on these wasn't easy for me to handle, but the rest, looking quite crisp. Loving the messy brushwork here, but yet readable, well-readable shapes. The cloak, the blades, the perspective, yeah, actually, this is how I would really love to approach most of my art. It's kind of messy, but also pretty good as well if you really zoom into it. Like, it really reads as confidence in this one, even though you can still see some perspective on the fists here. I can point out the legs still do not seem right to me, although they do not look small as my normal orcish legs do. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of this art looking back into it. Following this up with another personal art. This one is this one is pretty nice when I look back into it. It's a were demon hunter. I think I made this one before they announced, or actually right after Blizzard has announced a new Devour kind of wood theme demon hunter spec. And this is what I did to, I don't know, just to do a little fan art of that. Sometimes Blizzard announce something new for WoW, and I just want to paint it, not even to like necessarily get onto the hype, but just to kind of celebrate it. I don't know, to give it a little more attention. I love how this is like the whole thing is dark, but yet it's like there are some bright areas. Again, the very messy brushwork that is still contained within the shape. Actually, just looking back at this now, I wonder why I ever got away from this. It looks quite pleasant. Pleasant to look at and might have been pleasant to work with. I remember really vibing working on this art. It was also quite just like easy to approach to. Just everything dark, some stars in the background and the character, kind of looking simple. It's a close up either way, so it was pretty easy to paint. And we followed it up with another quick commission, a Blood Elf rogue character. Nothing too fancy in the background, just a smoke bomb kind of idea. That's usually all that I go for rogue, is just like some smoke in the background. But I tried to get in some color variation. You can see some blues, some purples, greens in there, and then really diving in on the rendering on the outfit. Looking pretty crisp. The blades also looking pretty nice. Nice material definition. If I remember correctly, yes, we have two versions of this. Two versions. First, we painted the character itself, and after that, I painted the hooded, the masked version, which I ended up like preferring and using for social media. Quite a nice piece. Another quick commission, a Blood Elf monk character. With this one, I was back when I was painting it, was super just insanely proud of how I did the fabric on her dress and her, just in general, kind of her body, all the anatomy and everything. Pushed some colors here, the reds, the greens in the background. Still really proud of this art. Nothing too kind of fancy storytelling wise or camera angle wise going on, but just is a general representation of this character looking pretty good. And also this art just kind of screams confidence to me. Follow this up with another quick commission. This is a Tauren. I think this the idea for this character is that a Tonka Tauren. It's kind of like snow Taurens. Goddamn, with some big titties over there. Really liking this. I think I portrayed the Blizzard snow aesthetic and her kind of like traveling through, I don't know, snowstorm is pretty well. Pretty well, I would say. Scale wise, I think her head is a little too big. Right. But overall, really liking this. And I see just a small portions of like paints on her fur or like in the ears where I tried to get some warm colors in, because the whole character design and the environment don't really provide that, so I try to find that within the rendering. To follow that up, another quick commission, Blood Elf. No, this might have been a White Elf Paladin. Kind of went a little too white on the side, or like kind of like betraying light and going to the dark side of the void. Really digging the angle and the character expression on this piece, actually. Even let me zoom in on the face. Dang, it's just some scribbles, but from afar, looking very nice. Looking like the face is very detailed, yet you can still see some strong shapes. Actually, looking back at this now, this piece was around half a year ago, and I feel like the trends that I've had in my art back then, I kind of want to revisit and kind of continue exploring them. Nice subsurface scattering on the cape, nice contrast of cold and warm colors. Yeah, pretty good art. Also top-down angle with him sitting like this, very moody. And believe I have a few versions. Yes, I have a no hood version, and then I have with hood on and the hood a little bit less of the hood on version. Yeah, I think the first one is the one that I dig the most. Speaking of the art that I'm proud of, this is another World of Warcraft character quick commission, a human paladin, and this one for my regular commissioner who is a fan of Warhammer aesthetic, and together we kind of bring it over into his characters in WoW. So kind of a lot of blood, a lot of some darker themes, and mixing it in with just WoW aesthetic. So yeah, looking pretty cool. Very strong colors, yet it doesn't look cartoony, doesn't look really stylized. Looking very grim and warhammery. To be honest, I really dig this aesthetic and the look and just kind of how I push the saturation here. Also, just again, one of those pieces where you cannot really describe it, but like it just screams confidence to me. And just like the way I was working on it, I was just slamming this art and really feeling it in the process. Something that I sometimes lack nowadays, strangely. Another quick commission, a drug fear evoker. The theme for this art was that they wanted to portray other drug fears flying in the background because there is like a talent in the game where drug fears summon other drug fears that are like kind of bombard their enemies. Yeah, I feel like I managed to portray that while this being a character focused piece, still having like a little bit of storytelling going on. Pretty nice. Some surface scattering on the wings to highlight the silhouette. Looking good, looking good. You can still see the messy brushwork still continuing on in this. Another quick commission, human paladin again. Some more light, some very simple environment in the back. Simple, but yet I think those clouds kind of added a lot to this art. Can't really say that the pose is too dramatic or dynamic or anything, but I feel like it works. It works out. I like the shine and the glow on the golden armor. All right, coming back to these big illustration commissions with borders that I was talking about. Allow me to show you the whole art. Another big piece that I spent way more time than I needed to reworking a lot of the background. Even though this was meant as a character art, majority of my time was spent just on the background and figuring out even like what there should be in the background, because the description for the art was quite vague. It left a lot of things for me to interpret it and figure out on my own. But I think in the end, I came to something very interesting. I still feel like this giant mountain with crystals in the background maybe could have been designed better, but the direction that I made here with all the swirls, all the clouds, the saturation in the sky, I really dig that. I feel like for me, this piece was a huge improvement when it comes to environment art, as I'm not really into it as much, or I haven't had opportunity to do it as much. But definitely pieces like these do level you up no matter if you want that or not. Oh, following this up with another big illustration commission, again, borders and elements of the art coming out of the borders is kind of the whole idea for this. Hope is that they're gonna be more immersive as just a normal art. This one was portraying a Dragfear character that they have had to kill the little dragons because they were corrupted by the void. So quite a like an emotional, sad piece is what it's supposed to be. And I don't know, I feel like I managed to portray that. You can definitely people who know kind of like WoW stuff, they would be aware of what's going on here. But I feel like for somebody who's not a WoW player, this art probably wouldn't mean much. Or maybe it would. I don't know. All right, next up we have something unusual. All right, it's a woman. It's an anime girl. I don't really paint those as often, but this was a commission from a regular viewer of my on my channel and another art streamer. So you can see this was quite an exception of what I usually do, but I was like, yeah, I don't mind. Let's let's paint your character. Um, so with this art, I try to go for more realistic rendering approach. Still a lot of messy brushwork, but quite a little more composed. The colors, I try to go for a little bit more realistic colors and values in this art. Definitely was a nice exercise to kind of to work it out like that, and just in general, kind of didn't mind painting this. Stuff like this, it's not like I dislike painting it, is that I just don't usually get to do it, and I don't really do it for myself. But if I was given the opportunity to paint characters like this, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. Following up with another quick commission of somewhat of the same situation, where this is a original character of one of my regular viewers and supporters on my Twitch stream. Their idea was that their character is just kind of lurking in the shadows, and you manage to catch them with a ray of light from a flashlight. Actually, I'm very happy with how I managed to portray that for being the first time where I ever paint like a light scenario like that. This was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting, and like the whole night forest, and also like a nice little addition that you might not see right away is that the corners of the forest here are like brighter, so you can see like it's actually the brightest spot is the one you can catch with the flashlight. Then it's darker, but then gets lighter again. So just for the sake of not the whole art just being fully black outside of the circle that you catch with the flashlight. And the characters themselves too, pretty nice. I feel like managed to capture a lot of realistic light look for it. And following this up with another full illustration commission, this one is a Frost Mage from World of Warcraft. And the client just wanted to showcase the might of the Frost Mage, just them casting either like some spells, some water magic. And what I have suggested is to have them summon a water elemental, as this is something what Frost Mages do in World of Warcraft. And obviously, back in the time, me being obsessed with these borders, this is kind of what we ended up doing. Water elemental peeking out of the borders, and the mage being surrounded by it. This one went pretty hard on socials. People on the stream were really enjoying me painting this. And honestly, this art was just such a breeze to work on. It had nothing difficult for me to figure out. The water rendering, I'm kind of already familiar with it and how it goes. It really fits my art style. And so as soon as I kind of settled on like the sort of the anatomy of the water elemental, the rest was pretty easy to do, and I just really vibed working on this. This is definitely one of those pieces where I'm still proud to add to my portfolio and to showcase for like example what my work would look like, or what I'm capable of doing. Following this, we have something somewhat unusual. This is a sword design commission where they commissioned me a design of where I got reached out and commissioned a design for a weapon and just given a verbal explanation of what that weapon should be. I was asked to just paint it on a white background, but I kind of wanted to have something to present it on, so I ended up doing this kind of like stone background with some like stones at a corner. I don't know, I've seen somewhere that this is how somebody presented their concept art. And the stones on the sword are meant to represent dragonflights from World of Warcraft. They have black, red, bronze, green, and blue dragonflights. And this weapon is kind of has all of them matched together and wields all of their powers. But it kind of wields them by force because these runes are like runes of domination magic. So it's meant to say that they kind of dominate all the powers of these dragonflights. So quite an interesting concept. I'm not sure if necessarily the shape kind of showcases that because it's just a very bulky sword shape. So that might have been more interesting, but I think it works. For the quick commission that I did, it works. And also the rendering looking crisp. Following up, we have another character quick commission. This one was a Blood Elf Priest. Quite nice, very light theme. I still continue on my messy brush work, but still kind of contain it within the outline and continue it within dynamic shapes. A lot of fabric that I've painted here, and I used to take this approach where I paint hair pretty much as fabric, and I think like it kind of works really nice here. You can definitely see that the hair and the fabric, they do kind of act in a similar way. Yeah, it kind of does work. Kind of does work. Very like this art. Another quick commission, a Blood Elf Rogue character. Again, I have to paint the rogue, I go for some smoke in the background. Some smoke, some cut light on her, and attempt to bring some saturation on the red spots. Looking pretty nice. Nothing too outstanding, I would say, but as a quick character art really works. Really works. And what we have here is another full illustration commission, again following up on the theme of the borders and big illustration within them. We have sort of a reconcept of a Void Lord, which was one of the recent bosses in World of Warcraft, but this time they wanted for me to paint it in a dragon form, in kind of like this cosmic serpent dragon that is consuming worlds, and they're going for our world here. Um, Again, this was a long process, like a lot of thumbnailing different ideas, but then as soon as we ended up on this art was pretty easy to execute. It just took me quite a long time to get all the rendering done, but to the whole process there was just not a lot of changes, not a lot of iterations on this. The commissioner was just such a pleasure to work with, and yeah, just in general kind of end up really liking this art. And as a bonus to this, it went kind of crazy on social media. This one got a lot of attention, got a lot of likes, and got a lot of praise. And I think I even had some people reaching out to me for commissions after they saw this art as well. So yeah, you never really know what kind of art would do well on socials until you actually post it and see how people react. I also really like how did the Cosmos here. It's kind of tricky to do, almost like it's very easy because you have no real structure to it, but yet it's also like kind of like clouds, but you also somehow have to get some kind of color variation in. So it's interesting and pretty simple at the same time. Following this up, we have another full illustration commission. This one is more on the simpler side, where this was a Tauren Death Knight, and the commissioner really wanted to portray this spell from the game called Remorseless Winter. It's whenever they have like this blizzard storm going around the character, and it deals damage and stuff. As this was a big illustration, but with not really much story or a lot of other stuff to portray other than like the main character and the spell effect, I ended up just like kind of diving on the rendering, pushing some hues there, really kind of selling it on the special effect or like on this magic that goes around the character. And I feel like it ended up looking pretty nice. Following up with something you would enjoy, it's a personal piece, a portrait of Valira from World of Warcraft, and you can see with this art I really just focused on her personality. Yes. I also took this art as a little bit of a challenge to paint her on just a singular layer. So you can see over the edges here, I kind of painted it over. You can see how the background wasn't like painted on a separate layer. It was all done on just one layer, and all done pretty quick too. So yeah, quite a good art. It was a pleasure to paint it, and looking good, and it feels good to look back at it. Let's just say that. Following this up with another personal art, this one was a fan art of Callie and Menethil. It is this character in the front and other Forsaken. They're kind of part of a council of undead people in the game, and they're like, I portray them as arguing us and her trying to like manipulate them. I think it would be very unclear, even for WoW players, what I was trying to showcase in this art. But yeah, this was a little personal art that I did. Quite a lot of personal art that I used to do half a year ago, goddamn. But following this up, we have another quick commission. This one was a hunter with their pair, and I really wanted to just portray happy vibes and have the hunter with their pair in the art. So it was about it. I also painted this fairy dragon as well and just kind of went for just more chill, um, just for more chill bright colors to kind of showcase that look. Moving forward, we have another full illustration commission. Oof, this one gonna be difficult to tell you what's going on for non-WoW players, but basically what you see here is a boss arena and a guild progressing on the boss, or well, this is the dev boss in the background, so they have killed her. But the main action is that the main character right here, they're a healer priest, and what they're doing is they're resurrecting their dead teammates. And usually in WoW, you do that between attempts of killing the boss, and that's kind of what they wanted to show, is that they have finally killed the boss in mythic difficulty, and kind of the experience of doing that is just doing a lot of tries over and over again and raising your guild guild teammates in the process. This art took me a long time to do, and primarily not even for kind of the main difficulties you would think, but to actually get just the perspective down correctly on this. But either way, I'm quite proud of the colors that I was managed to build up here, all the red saturation going into some blue, the depth, the characters getting rest in the background, the main character, I think looking crisp. It was a lot of struggle working on this, but I ended up pulling it off and quite proud of it still. Next one, we have a quick character commission of a Brewmaster Night Elf lady. You see the borders, you see the drunk Night Elf lady over here, but you wouldn't know that this is probably one of my most, if not the most popular art that I've ever done. This has gotten like 12,000 likes on Twitter or something. This one went crazy, which I absolutely didn't expect. You would never expect something that only took you 6 hours to paint to be your most famous art, but hey, you can kind of guess why. The art's looking pretty crisp. I'm proud that I was able to paint the expression and the anatomy this well and this fluid without any references. The only references I used is for some kind of ideas for the tavern environment in the back, which is kind of very roughly painted, but I still required some references for it. Following this up, we have another quick character commission. This one was a Draenei with their heritage armor, and Exodar, it's like a Draenei ship in the back. You can see borders squishing um, more and more part of the illustration. I feel like it kind of fits here, but definitely it's I've been on the theme of doing borders for all the art that I do. I kind of like this piece. It gives a little bit of a storytelling. My idea was that the Draenei, this guy was like really proud of his heritage, and it's like this their ship and the whole thing, just kind of them looking very proud. To follow this up, we have another full illustration commission. All these recent full illustrations with borders that you see, I took them on at the same time and ended up just like spending months and months of doing them one by one working. This one, however, was not of WoW characters. This one was of original characters, a devil and an angel. And yeah, kind of end up portraying them in this way. I didn't know that much about their lore, but basically, it's supposed to portray that the devil guy is defending the angel guy. I really like the color variation and some kind of like whatever's going on in the background. I feel like really kind of affects it. But I felt like this art was about painting their wings and trying to just like fit those characters close together, but also like not fully coloring each other. I also feel like this art came to me pretty easy. I didn't feel like I was struggling on this as much. Another quick commission, more borders. This one was a Blood Elf warrior. Try to portray them more of like looking down, kind of arrogant. Yeah, pretty nice. I feel like the background's kind of fitting. They look like they're in the midst of battle, just like killed a bunch of people and kind of looking for others to follow their fate. I don't know if you can notice, but I try to go from uh less value range and saturation on the top towards like more of it towards the bottom. So you can see the bottom is more contrasty, has more saturation, meanwhile the top is kind of like nearly black and white and things blending together. I don't know, just some random but nice little thing I tried to experiment with in this art. Ooh, and to follow this up, we have somebody who you might recognize. This art I did it on my birthday on 28th of October. Um, just a little bit, a little self-portrait. Again, couldn't get away with not doing any borders here. Just a small self-portrait that I painted on my stream. Didn't try to go like full painterly, didn't try to go for full stylized or realistic. I just try to portray what my art style is right now and just paint myself as well. Just like, I don't know, like a checkpoint for me to look back and see kind of what I was about in this time. 'Cause I actually have done a lot of self-portraits in the past. I have a lot of good things to say about doing self-portraits. I think it's like nice all around to do them. I'm a huge fan. It's probably the only time in this year where I actually just like took a photo of myself and then or really to be honest, a photo of something and then just like kind of did a painting on top of it. Or sorry, not on top of it, but it was the first time where I ever just took a photo and did a study of it, stylizing it. I don't usually get a luxury of just doing something so chill in art, so it was such a nice, refreshing experience. And I like how the portrait came out. I know you can say that the eyes are kind of like not even or whatever, but I feel like stylizing them, making them a little goofy is pretty nice. I feel like it gives them more character rather than like just making them perfect. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. But to follow this up, we have Reese fan art from Chainsaw Man because it was around that time that the Chainsaw Man Reese movie came out. I went there, I watched it as a huge Chainsaw Man fan, and of course, I absolutely just loved it. And I had to do a fan art, but obviously, I didn't post it anywhere. I didn't tell anybody. I just did it on my stream, and that was all because well my socials and everything are about World of Warcraft, D&D and fantasy characters, and I just cannot go out there and post an anime fan art. That would be nobody would get it. But it was fun painting it though. Just a quick little art that I ended up just posting on my Patreon and forgetting about it. And we follow this up with something way more Warcrafty. This one was a personal art that I did of just a little idea that I've had of blood elves fighting just humans. I really love this look of these like soldiers in similar armor and them fighting. It's such a simple concept, but I also just love the idea of this like huge fight, just pile of corpses. No, something like just very uh, fantasy like about it, and I don't really get to see that in Warcraft as much. I feel like Warcraft used to be about something like this, and then it just stopped being. And well, at least I get to bring it back a little bit in my art. Also, give it a little more character, so you can see like some meme inserts in this. Again, borders, a lot of like experiments with brushwork and colors, shapes. I really try to make like every pose that you see here kind of like a little bit more dramatic and exaggerated. You can see this guy just absolutely hips forward, arms back, and stuff like this. Had a lot of fun painting this. I even reached out for some feedback to other artists to kind of correct on this art. Ended up not correcting much, but on top of everything, kind of like I have emotion attached to it. This art also did quite well on socials. It didn't get that much exposure, but for people who saw it, it was also very polarizing. It probably is the most comments I've gotten on a singular art. People talking about faction conflict, war in Warcraft, and just all kinds of things. It really got people riled up talking about WoW and like what it means for them and what it's not like that. And but yeah, quite good art. I'm not sure if the looking back at it, I would say I'm not sure if the borders really fit this art or not, but it was a lot of fun making it. We just follow this up with another character quick commission. This is a warlike Nightborn character that are struggling with like white whispers or like some kind of magic infiltrating their mind. And I just try to paint them amongst the city of also other Nightborn characters and kind of like them acting confused, like kind of glancing at them. Um, Again, quick commission, trying to get something more in that I used to do in the past. I'm trying to sneak in an environment, some storytelling bits, uh, even managed to sneak in a few characters. And even if they're painted like very roughly, with just like a few simple brush strokes, tells some kind of a story, doesn't it? To follow this up, another quick commission, a panda monk meditating on top of a mountain. I think this was about time where I ditched the borders, or at least it does seem like so by this art. Actually quite proud of this piece looking back at it. I really like the material rendering. I really like the contrast of saturation and desaturation. You can see how much this green magic element is pumping and how desaturated and just like vague everything else in the background and on the character. Another Warcraft character quick commission, a Nightborn mage. I didn't have any idea what to do there for the background after I painted her, but in the last minute managed to sneak in some kind of like vague runes and some other mages, and just based on the source of light I kind of came up with idea, but maybe she is absorbing this like energy from this energy source or some kind of mana pool there on the bottom. I feel it kind of worked out like that. Mm, Definitely not the best storytelling piece I've done, but for a quick commission works pretty good. Also really like how soft her face looks. And we follow this up with another quick commission of a WoW character. This one wasn't a full body, but rather a portrait. I mean, as you can tell, a warlock and undead character. They specifically asked me to do rather a portrait for them, which I absolutely love. I rarely get commissioned portraits, and I absolutely love painting them, as we all do. Having a face to zoom on and to focus on detail is just such a blessing for, I assume, every single artist out there. A lot of people just focus on portraits because it's so much nicer, so much more approachable, and the simpler the subject is, the more stuff you can play around with. You can see she had a headpiece of these like flowers, so I ended up just like really kind of diving in and rendering and perfecting the saturation and the shapes on the petals while leaving the background kind of empty, so it works as a space to rest your eyes in. And obviously the hand gesture kind of sells the vibe of the character more. We followed this up with another quick commission. This one was a human blood death knight. The idea for this art was that the character was a monster hunter, so I tried to portray them fighting something while the other thing would be outside of the canvas. So just like that, played around with saturation and desaturation here with some interesting light decisions and dramatic lighting to kind of give more dynamic look to the art and the pose. Also pretty happy with the bottom up angle and this kind of pose. I think it looks quite dramatic. This one is another quick commission, but not of a WoW, but of a Final Fantasy XIV character. And I don't usually paint Final Fantasy characters, I don't get commissioned them too often, but I've definitely painted a few. And for this one, I tried to go for a little bit more of a painterly look, almost make it look like the character is painted onto the background, like on the canvas. And just in general, kind of diving in on the rendering on their suit, on the outfit, and not really selling any kind of story or whatever, because I'm kind of unfamiliar with what's going on in Final Fantasy. I've never played it, so did the best with what I had here. However, I'm quite proud of the rendering on the outfit and on their hair. I like how the only saturated bright part is just their hair. Next up, we have a quick commission of a WoW character. I think this one, she's rather a paladin or a warrior, and also quite just like a simple art. Bottom up dynamic angle, lots of gold, lots and lots of gold and lots of material rendering over here, and stormy cloud in the background. Really like the eyes and how I painted them, how I brightened it up with blue. I made it look like we kinda as viewer are a source of light here, and that she's lightened from below. Also, interestingly enough, this is not how I usually render hair, but here it works really, really nice. Just a singular brush stroke approach to rendering it. Yeah, quite like this art. Still quite like it. Next up, we have another quick commission. This time, it's not a Final Fantasy and not a World of Warcraft, but this one is just full-on original character here. And they had this very interesting outfit with red kind of underneath it, underneath the jacket, and a red shirt as well. So I made sure to make this kind of like the main point in art. Something just abstract, painfully looking to follow the background. And yeah, the whole time took me pretty much just rendering the character and didn't have an opportunity to come up with something for the background or some kind of story bits or whatever. Another quick commission of a WoW character, a Blood Elf Paladin. I say that I got away from doing borders, but on this one, I kind of came back to it, and it felt like borders were very fitting for this art. This piece is quite interesting because I still come back to it to give myself some kind of references. I really like how I exercise just straight lines and really solidifying the silhouette with these straight lines and just kind of carving out strong, very dynamic shapes with that. It's something that I still really try to do, really try to pay attention to. And this art was just the one that I managed to execute that perfectly. Also, just very interesting shape decision for like him pointing with the hand and the cloud kind of following that. Yeah, very much still very proud of this art. We follow this up by a personal piece. This one is my character from WoW. It's a monk. With this one, I actually painted a character that I didn't even have. I was thinking about playing another character or starting, like making and leveling another character in WoW, but I actually didn't have that much time to play. I usually start playing and then I paint my own character once I really get excited, get kind of invested into them. But this time around, I started thinking on what would be interesting to play first, and then I jumped into doing art of them, kind of getting more and more excited, and then ended up leveling them and playing them in the game itself. I started this just as a quick half body art. The whole idea that I had for it is that she would be just like kind of peeking, taking off a little bit of her face mask, and then just kind of painting in the rest. Just sometimes I just really like to paint for myself without necessarily having a purpose. It's just something that comes to me naturally once in a while, where I get overwhelmed by commissions, and then I just think to myself that I need to relax. I need to just do art for myself and nobody else. And this one, even looking simple, looking like it's kind of purposeless compared to all the other artworks that you can like you see this amongst of, but it's still it had a place in my time. Looking back at it, I kind of like the background, which I was struggling with quite a lot, and I also like the plasticky look on the hair. Plasticky doesn't sound too good, but I actually love whenever hair looks more like a kind of clay like texture. Next up, we have a full illustration commission. This one also started it with borders in mind, but then kind of as this art progressed, I realized that borders are no more. Borders are no more. This for sure didn't need borders and ended up just like kind of messing it up along the way. I was struggling a lot with portraying movement, portraying the dynamic of a night elf warrior fighting this like ghost-like creepy creature, but ended up adding a lot of dramatic light, ended up adding some like birds and some chains, some particles, like all those little things to really kind of sell the dynamic nature of this art. Had to reach out to some really experienced artists to ask for feedback, and then yeah, this is what I kind of managed to come up with. I would call this art one of the highlights of the year for me, just because this one really forced me to get out of my comfort zone to really push the quality. And more importantly, it started even raising this question of pushing my quality. Because up until this point, I kind of was just satisfied with what I was doing. I was trying to improve, but I really wasn't thinking that the quality is something that has to be pushed like right now, like right on this art. And this artwork really brought it onto the table. So I ended up spending way more time on it than I usually do. I did way more revisions, way more just coming back to attack the rendering and look for the canvas for more potential things to render. And this is what I end up with. We follow this up with another quick commission. This one is a drug fear character. Going strong on hard edge shapes and saturation over here. Really love this art and how like simple it looks in rendering, yet it like really portrays the form and the energy. It just screams at you the same way the dragon screams. You can look at the tongue to really see what I was trying to do with all the forms and the way I was trying to show them. Next up, we have another quick commission. This one is a demon hunter. I tried to paint them kind of like jumping in the air, like launching an attack on something. With very long hair, with some kind of light. I think I got a little bit lost in kind of like the amount of things in this art, and actually ended up spending a lot of time just reworking their torso and anatomy there. But I feel like I ended up at a pretty solid place, especially for a quick commission. This one looks pretty well composed. Again, you can see me trying to go for those more of solid hard edge shapes here. And we follow this up with another quick commission, this one of a dwarf paladin. Commissioner of this art wanted something more chill and her maybe just like wandering around, nothing that is a combat themed. That sparked me to go on this idea of, can I even paint like her, not in a combat stance, but maybe like chilling, going through some place? Can I paint a scene that would kind of tell some kind of like a story or maybe hint at a story? And you'll see where this art will get me on this journey where I try to fit in some kind of storytelling and story beats. This is what I was talking about, by the way, in the beginning of this video, commenting on other art, where I was slowly raising the bar of what I want to do in illustration. And with this one, I actually got into, again, trying to tell some kind of a story even within a quick commission. A quick commission is something that doesn't that isn't really meant to be like a very big art. It isn't meant for me to like spend a lot of time on. It's just meant to be like a quick character focused art. And yeah, I'm trying to raise the bar and kind of do something like this here, where she's just like going through the storming city and just like looking at the little bird wandering. And so you can see quite a dramatic angle, kind of looking at the character from maybe like a window or like on top of the tent or something, right? You can really see kind of the scene coming together like this. Also quite nice rendering on the armor here. Really digging this. Another quick commission here. This one is a human blood death knight. Alright, not much storytelling here. I think I tried to go for it first, but didn't come up with any kind of idea. Ended up drawing a bottle of just warm, kind of bubbling up blood, which really does look quite fitting for a Blood Death Knight. I also tilted the camera a little bit and even kind of cut off a little bit of the character of the screen, so it makes it look like maybe she's approaching you and you're like looking at her, like you're already like turning to run away and look at her. So it gives a little bit more of a dynamic look to the whole art. Another quick commission of a WoW character. Commissioner of this piece wanted for their character to a little bit resemble a Diablo angel, and their outfit from the game also resembles that, so this is what I painted them look like, with this Diablo angel-like wings and some clouds around them. I feel like this art came out pretty nicely. Very dynamic, very kind of busy, also like cutting this character like that does feel counterintuitive, but I feel like it really helps to sell the dynamic nature of the piece. Going next, another quick commission, an undead role character, and to continue with the theme with storytelling, this piece really hits it home. With this character kind of going through some kind of forest, having like some kind of plague following them. Again, in the span of just 6 hours, in the scope of a quick commission, that what I tried to do here as well in some other previous pieces, I'm really trying to like tell a story instead of just painting the character. And you can see, even if you don't necessarily have a clue of what is going on, you kind of start thinking about like, okay, there is something actually going on in this art. There is this character, she's holding her mask, she's getting away from the smoke, or like at least moving in another direction. Like it raises some questions for you. As well as this next art another quick commission of a Mechanome character. And again, here I'm just trying to come up with some kind of a story. What if this Mechanome is like a guard in the Mechanome city, and their whole idea in game that they're machine perfectionists. They think that every single living thing should be a machine, and now this guard finds a mouse. So storytelling beats like that is what I was trying to really kind of hunt for in my art. So now seeing this and hearing this, it probably gives you a little bit of a perspective of why I almost looked down on the art that I was doing in the start of the year. Like it's so much easier, it's so much less than an illustration like this that kind of not only portrays the characters better, but also tells a story. It makes it really kind of interesting. This looks like an artwork rather than just, oh, that's, I mean, a character drawn, all right. And amongst everything, also the sharp edged shapes rendering, kind of the light, the contrast. Quite a quite a good art. Really proud of this one. And the mouse looking solid. Next up we have a personal artwork. This one is called Coming Home, and this was done to celebrate them adding player housing in World of Warcraft. Again, one of those situations where I just decide to paint something to like celebrate the feature a little bit. Honestly speaking, I was thinking this art gonna do much better than it did on socials, but I didn't get a lot of reception. Well, so be it. Again, try to execute a lot of hard edge shapes, some dramatic lighting, some interesting dynamic angles, and I feel like as an art overall looking pretty good. Pretty good. We follow this up with another quick commission. Again, storytelling beats a demon hunter fighting a demon, like literally ripping their jaw open. Hard edge shapes for rendering. Interesting contrast of light, shadow, and colors. So yeah, just pretty good overall. Really happy with this. Following this up with another quick commission. This one is an original character and I've been asked to paint them, control the elements. And as soon as I saw what my commissioner wanted, I was kind of like, alright, we probably not telling much of a story in this art, besides just painting the character. So this is what I end up doing, looking good, quite like shapes of light on this character, and just in general how I managed to paint all of the water, fire, and earth and lighting in this. Following up, another original character, they are a fire mage. And in this one, I immediately wanted to paint some fire with the smoke coming out of it. I feel like it makes, when it comes to painting fire, this is what really makes it more interesting, is just smoke and how fire lights the smoke, like how it affects it in terms of light. I feel like the placement of like just the fire thing itself is a little bit weird, but overall I really kind of like the dynamic angle of this and the light that comes from it, and also just the very saturated blue in the background of the sky that is like contrasty to the orange of to the orange and red of fire. Next up, another quick commission, a human blood death knight, which the commissioner wanted for me to portray them as like a noble aristocrat like character, like they're posing for a portrait or something. And this is kind of exactly what I ended up painting. Something resembling like their house or something in the background, wine or rather blood is what they'd be drinking. Yeah, looking pretty nice. This art was an absolute beast to finish. As a full illustration commission, I went through so many changes with this one. I started it alongside of all the border art that you saw me do earlier this year, and I ended up remaking the whole idea, the composition, the direction, everything about this piece was changed many times. Even the way I approached rendering kind of did change, but I ended up not giving up and just continuing on doing more and more on it, rebuilding it from scratch until I finally ended up onto something I liked and my commission did like as well. I ended up going for something like a bottom up angle with her army of demons just kind of surrounding us as a viewer, and the main character itself kind of looking down on us with legion ships in the sky, and like her just portraying her full might of a warlock. I think this artwork took me maybe more than 60 hours to do. Some absurd amount, like one of the most time consuming pieces I've ever done in my life. So, but at least I'm proud of looking back at it now. Like I see so many things that I do really like, kind of the rendering that I ended up pushing, the hard shapes, the color, the angle, like just kind of everything about this is really just pleasant to look at for me. Sometimes if you spend too much time working on one art, it really just you can help but like feel sick looking at it again. You're just tired of looking at it. But this one is like pleasant to come back to. And we follow this up with a quick commission of a dwarf hunter character. Very proud of this one. Just right away, right out of the corner, love this art. It's so realistic yet saturated looking. We have this storytelling bit, just kind of looking, sneaking on onto this hunter. Meanwhile, they're tracking some kind of a beast. The guy looking quite rendered, but also painted quickly. And just everything about this art is hits home for me. Love this. Love this. Next up, another quick commission. This one is I believe like a mercenary rogue character. It's not really their outfit is not from WoW, but they're meant to be like a WoW character. I try to paint them in a tavern, and sometimes whenever I'm trying to do this like storytelling bits, like environments and stuff, I kind of run myself into a corner where I try to do too much, but it's a quick commission. It's meant to be a sketch. Like I'm on a timer, and I managed to not pull it off. As you can see here, the perspective is pretty screwed. Like you literally see things not converging at the same point. The rendering is nice. Sneaked in a couple of other characters in here, but something about the perspective here I just didn't manage to really develop in time. But I feel like overall it kind of still holds together. Another quick commission to follow it up, we have a Drugfear Bard character. Bards are not a thing in WoW, but the commissioner really wanted them to be like a bard. I ended up pulling overtime on this art and repainting a bunch of animals, just the whole idea for this art. I did repaint a few times, but ended up going with the idea of them playing their harp for these like spirit animals in the spirit realm. Looking good. I like the saturation here. I think the hard edge shapes road that I went on is kinda making the art look a little bit too simplistic over here. Like these big shapes of just light on their chest just look a little bit flat. But overall, in terms of everything else and color and light, I really like this piece. Alrighty, the next up we have a full illustration commission. This is a Blood Elf monk lady that is the whole idea for this was that she was meant to be like levitating somewhere out in the nature and just like chilling there and enjoying herself. And this one was really the art that where I really centered on the quality instead of just calling it done somewhat midway. I really started pushing it. I really started like just really diving into each individual little corner of this piece and just absolutely doing my 100% best and trying to even discover what I can do more than 100%. And I'm very, very proud. I feel like this art was really just a culmination of everything that I tried to do, that I tried to achieve on my art journey in 2025. Commissioner of this piece was just a perfect client to work with. They have never requested a single change. They just liked me going and liked me progressing on the art. The whole process of making this was also incredibly pleasant. How I ended up not really redoing much. Maybe there were a few things that I ended up like changing. Like this column in the background gave me a little bit of trouble. Like the clouds in the middle, I ended up like redoing lighting on them a few times. But I would say overall, I went from the thumbnail to rough draft to rendering and then just continued rendering on it. Just from the get-go, and it was just such a smooth progress curve that was really just pleasant. Going above and beyond on the rendering on all the details was just pleasant because it was not much of redoing and was just like building on top of what I had. And they end up sneaking in this like lizard and the mushroom guy. And did a little bit of a sneaky skull shape here. Very fun. Very fun art. And then the last piece of 2025 was this Blood Elf Rogue art. Another quick commission. Again, going for some story. going for some hard edge shapes, some contrast of saturation and desaturation. If previous was a good end to all the full illustration commissions I've done in this year, this one is definitely like a king of quick commissions for sure. Again, nailing like a interesting pose, interesting angle, not that bad of a rendering, and bits of storytelling, all in like a scope of a quick commission for me. Absolutely wonderful. Really proud of this art and couldn't be more proud of the whole 2025. This concludes us at 143 pieces, and I haven't even counted the few book covers that I did, which I don't know if I can share them or not yet due to NDA, and a few other pieces that I ended up leaving out of this. But overall, what a wild year. I definitely know one thing is that I can do more. There were a few months of like downtime where not like I wasn't painting. I can easily say that I was painting absolutely every single day of this year, but there were a few months that I wasn't like that excited, that pumped, I wasn't that productive. Which is definitely, I feel like if I managed to lock in for the whole year, it would have been way more than 140 pieces, way more in terms of quality and stuff. I think looking back at this, I can definitely say that last like 4 or 5 months of 2025 were really kind of the time where I picked it up in terms of quality, in terms of the things that I've tried, that I've accomplished. It just shows you that if you lock it in for a while, you can definitely accomplish a lot when it comes to art. It's only a matter if you can keep it up for long enough. That's what it really is about. But I think it's about it for the art review of 2025. I hope it was entertaining to look at, to see how my art style changes. And well, I tried my best to explain what was on my mind, but it was a long year. Might I might have missed something or just simply forgot why I was doing certain things. But I really hope it kind of gave you a little bit of a sneak peek of what I was thinking about while creating all those pieces. I hope you guys had a productive 2025 as well, and let's just all do a little bit more art in the next year. Thank you everybody for watching. If you'd like to support me, you can get my prints or subscribe to me on Patreon. And I wish you all happy arting. Bye bye.